everybody, welcome back to Dinner and a Tip. My name is Brenda and I'm going to be your cooking guide. So today we're going to do Mongolian beef, but because I'm using a cheaper meat, normally you'd use like a sirloin or a ribeye. Let's be honest, everybody's on a budget. So I'm going to do a flank steak, but because of that, I want to go ahead and marinate it before I actually start cooking on it. So flank steak is going to have all of this fatty stuff. You just want to take a knife and kind of trim some of that off. That's not something we really want to be doing too much cooking with. If you have dogs, you could go ahead and cook that up and I'm sure they would appreciate it. So, but let's just go ahead and get it cut. Try not to cut my own fingers off. Alright, so we're just gonna go ahead and cut slices. You want them to be pretty thin for this recipe. These are probably a little on the thicker side, but that's all right. So just go ahead and keep cutting them as thin as you can. And this is what we're gonna start with. And you're gonna see like these big chunks of fat. I'm just gonna pull that off because I don't want to cook that in. I know sometimes the fat is good, but for this recipe, I want it to be more meat than that. So, and that's what happens when you get the thinner or the cheaper cuts of meat. You're gonna get more of that fatty areas in it. So let's just hurry up and cut through all of this. And then when you get to certain areas, you'll definitely be seeing more of that fat that you want to get rid of. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you the marinade, then I'm gonna finish cutting this up. So for this, I love this Japanese barbecue sauce that you use for the hibachi stuff. And actually, I'm going to use this as part of our marinade. So you just want enough to get the meat fully covered. And then I'm going to use Pepsi. I use Pepsi, Coke, or Dr. Pepper. For whatever reason, it's probably horrible for your stomach, but it's great for marinating your meat in it. So I'm going to do about a half a can of Pepsi. And then I'm just gonna do some minced garlic in this. So I'm just gonna go ahead and mix this up. I'm gonna give this about 30 minutes to an hour to help tenderize the meat. And then when I'm doing the Mongolian recipe, I don't use the Japanese sauce, but I actually think it adds a little extra flavor that I'm excited to have with this. So go ahead and we'll be back in about 30 minutes and we'll show you how to finish cooking this up. All right, so our marinade is done, and so we are ready to start our cooking. So I'm just gonna throw a little bit of oil down just to make sure nothing's gonna stick here. And I don't mind that some of this marinade is coming onto the grill. So we're gonna go ahead and do this. And then we're gonna make our mixture that's gonna go on for the sauce. But I wanna go ahead and get this meat cooking first. And remember, because this meat is thick or thin, it's gonna actually cook pretty quick. So you wanna keep an eye on it. So next, let's go ahead. I've got a half a cup of water here. I've got 1/4 cup of brown sugar. I'm gonna do probably a tablespoon of garlic. Even though we've got garlic in there, I still want to go ahead and add some. We've got some ginger paste. This is about a tablespoon. We've got some, probably do about a half a cup of the soy sauce. And I'm not going to put any other salt into this recipe. The soy salt, even though it's low, still has a decent amount. And then I'm going to do a 1/4 cup of the Hassan sauce. And then I'm going to go ahead and give that a mix. And then I've got some green onions that I cut up. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw these in here. And then I've got the onion tips that we're gonna kind of use as a garnish later. But for fun, we'll throw a couple in right now. So I am cooking this on high. Although I'm guessing it did not preheat. I forgot to preheat. So it's taking a little longer for it to come up to temperature, but so we're gonna go ahead and work on that. And for the cheat today, we are gonna do these pre-cooked noodles. You could definitely serve this over white rice if you'd like, but actually I really like these noodles. And then we're gonna throw a little oil down for these guys because they will definitely stick. And basically we just need to heat these up. These are already cooked and ready to go. So go ahead and get those. Give it a little shake, shake, shake. Got our beef cooking. With this, you want this beef cooked all the way. You don't want to serve this even like partially raw. You want it all the way cooked. So love the smell of garlic outside. This is awesome. So for this recipe, I'm going to keep it just a straight Mongolian, but if you want to add to this one, you could add some, I would say, pea pods. You could add mushrooms. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can add to this to make this a little bit thicker, heartier of a meal. But so this is almost all the way cooked. You just want to make sure all the meat is dark, and that way you'll know that it's cooked. Definitely don't want to cheat the process on this one. So let's go ahead and give our mixture a stir. And the other thing we're going to do is cornstarch. Cornstarch you always want to pre-mix with water before you put it in. If you were just to put cornstarch right into this, it's actually going to make it lumpy, and it's really hard to get those lumps out. So you always want to make sure that you've got all of that done ahead of time. And I'm just going to take a little bit of this broth to throw in there, or the marinade. Usually you want a little bit more liquid, so people would maybe do like a cup of beef broth. I don't have any, so I'm just going to do the marinade today. Alright. Noodles are nice and warm, so we're just waiting for this meat to finish up. Now our grill's finally up to temperature. We're finally getting that nice cooking sizzle that you love to hear on your Blackstone. So, and you can see there's still some of that marinade in here, and that's perfectly fine. So when we put this other sauce in here, that's going to help thicken it up, and then when we put it over the noodles, we'll be doing great. So all right, gonna get our plate ready. So now the steak is cooked all the way. So we're gonna go ahead and slowly start adding our marinade in. You don't want to do it all at once because it's so thin, it's just gonna go all over the place. In the perfect world, you will have a completely level grill, but because I keep fighting the sun, I keep moving mine around, so it's never all the way level like I would like it to be. So we make it work. All right, we got half of our marinade in. Let's go ahead and dump in the rest. And if we give this a few minutes, that cornstarch is what's going to help start thickening this up. So, and that's what we want, is more of a thicker sauce when we go ahead. We don't want it just to be this runny mess. Like, definitely runny. We don't want that. So all right, I can see it's starting to thicken now. And I'm actually getting better about not forgetting something every single time, but I did forget something. So assistant, if you can grab me a fork so I can try this once it's done. And actually, I like a lot of sauce, so I'm going to go ahead and dump the rest of that. These noodles are all the way cooked, so I'm just have those on. I just shut the grill off for those because we're not quite ready to add everything else yet. But you can smell the ginger, the garlic. Thank you. As always, our neighbor has always decided, I think he cuts his grass about every 6 hours, maybe. maybe an exaggeration, but at least once every other day. So maybe you've got that neighbor too. So you can see the sauce is definitely starting to thicken up. We just want it a little bit thicker. We're going to go ahead and take our cooked noodles. Go ahead and stick those over here. And I actually have a lot of steak with this one, so I probably, depending on your love of noodles, might want to grab a second noodle for that one. So, and as you can see, our sauce is definitely slowing down and thicker. And as soon as this comes off the heat, it's actually going to thicken up a little bit more. So, I'll go ahead and put this right there. And then you're going to want to go ahead and hit it with some of the onions. These I'm not doing as cooked. Sesame seeds are also an option. And now nothing left to do but give it a taste. Get that noodle and the meat. Alright, this is always more complicated than it needs to be. It's like I've eaten all my life and then I suddenly forget when I'm on camera. Seriously, so delicate. The marinated steak with this is like a huge game changer, especially if you're using a cheaper steak. If you're using a better steak like a sirloin or a ribeye, you don't really need to worry about marinating, but me, if I have a chance to marinate it, I'm going to. See, now you can see how much thicker that sauce is. That is perfect for what you want. So go ahead, subscribe. See you next time.